Have you ever wondered what the most hidden places on Earth really look like? Beyond famous cities, beaches, and landmarks, there are still remote landscapes that feel almost untouched by ordinary human life. Beneath the surface, volcanic forces, underground rivers, and ancient rock systems continue to shape secret worlds in silence. Above ground, glaciers, deserts, storms, and ocean winds constantly rebuild cliffs, valleys, coastlines, and isolated islands over time. Across these places, forests, lakes, mountains, dunes, craters, and strange stone formations reveal environments that many people may never witness in their lifetime. Some were carved by fire, some by ice, some by water, and some by millions of years of slow geological pressure. Each location stands as clear evidence that our planet still hides places more mysterious than imagination. And in this journey, we will explore hidden corners of Earth where nature remains powerful, remote, and almost unreal. Trang An, Vietnam. This place opens like a limestone mountain maze above clear water, taking visitors into a peaceful space almost separate from the outside world. On the boat journey, the river curves through narrow valleys, letting mountain shadows, the sky, and the calm water blend together naturally. The most attractive part is the flooded cave system, where the boat passes through low, dark stone passages before suddenly reaching a wide, bright space. Covering more than 15,320 acres, this scenic area was recognized by UNESCO as the only mixed World Heritage Site in Southeast Asia because of its special landscape, geological, and cultural value. Its ancient, peaceful, and cinematic beauty made Hollywood choose this place as a main setting for the blockbuster Kong Skull Island. Manpu Puna Rock Formations, Russia. Rising from the wild land of Russia, these 7 giant stone pillars look like ancient gods standing guard between Europe and Asia. Reaching up to 138 feet tall, they are the super-hard quartz remains of an old mountain range that nature wore down over 200 million years. Under -40 degrees Fahrenheit cold and winds up to 62 miles per hour, their surfaces are slowly shaped into strange and haunting faces across the empty tundra. In the early morning, thick fog often covers their base, making them look like giant ghost ships floating in the air. Once a sacred place for local indigenous people, this wonder now stands as a powerful symbol of strength that time could not destroy. Godafoss, Iceland. To prevent a terrible religious war, people here threw the statues of the Norse gods into the roaring water, turning this place into the resting ground of the gods. Connected to that mysterious story is a magnificent scene where the waterfall curves into a half circle about 98 feet wide and drops from a rock wall about 39 feet high, creating a non-stop wall of white foam. The scenery here looks almost unreal, like movie visual effects, because of the strong contrast between the emerald water and the black volcanic rocks. In midsummer, the midnight sun keeps the sky bright even at 2 in the morning, covering the whole waterfall in a magical pink-orange light. Under that light, water vapor rises from the waterfall into a thin mist, then meets the sunlight and creates bright double rainbows in the air. Uluwatu Temple, Indonesia. Imagine standing on the edge of the Indian Ocean, where a black coral stone temple hangs about 230 feet above the rushing sea. This temple, more than 1,000 years old, is dedicated to Rudra, the god of storms, and its split gates symbolize the balance of the universe, such as good and evil, earth and sky. As you walk along a stone path stretching for hundreds of yards beside the cliff, like the spine of a dragon, you often meet clever monkeys, famous for stealing things and trading them for food. Right below the cliff is one of the most challenging surf spots in the world, where waves from 15 to 20 feet high are fit only for the boldest surfers. As sunset fades, more than 70 men begin the Kicak dance using only their voices instead of instruments, turning the whole place into a haunting and breathtaking ritual. Henningsvær, Norway. Like broken pieces of a fairy tale kingdom, this fishing village is scattered across small islands connected by winding bridges in the wide ocean. Its most impressive sight is the football field standing alone near the water's edge, where bright green grass blends with giant cod drying racks full of history. The village's beauty also comes from the vivid contrast between bright red wooden houses and emerald water below tall grey limestone cliffs. Beyond fishing, this place has strongly transformed into a proud island of modern art in the heart of the Arctic. Most especially, the whole space changes magically with the seasons, from bright summer days under the midnight sun to winter nights filled with the mysterious dance of the Northern Lights. Silfra, Iceland. Shaped like an open wound in Earth's crust, this fissure is the only place where you can dive straight into the gap between two continental plates that are still tearing away from each other. It has water called the clearest on Earth, with surreal visibility reaching more than 328 feet, letting you see every crack deep below. This absolute clarity takes away the normal feeling of swimming, making divers feel as if they are floating weightlessly through deep outer space. When sunlight shines down, the water glows with bright fluorescent colors, while still hiding dark underground cave systems that remain a permanent forbidden zone for humans. The wildest and greatest experience here is spreading both arms and touching two halves of the world at once, right on the oceanic fault line. Maspalomas Dunes, Spain. Breaking the usual rules of nature, the Maspalomas Dunes create a strange scene where a hot mini-desert meets the rolling waves of the ocean. The surprising truth is that this sand did not come from Africa, but from shells and sea bones crushed by the ocean over about 250,000 years. Under a burning sun that can heat the surface to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, this harsh place is still broken by green palm oases and gives shelter to giant native lizards. Although it covers only about 2 square miles, the moving dunes can easily fool your eyes and ears, pulling you into a deep silence like the middle of a huge desert. Beyond being a natural wonder, this mini-desert also hides a darker secret, because strong winds sometimes uncover pottery pieces and human bones from the ancient people who once lived on this sacred land. Lake Oeschinen, Switzerland. This place stands out with its bright emerald green water, so clear and deep that people may feel like they are looking at a perfectly edited nature photo. Its beauty becomes even more majestic because the lake sits between three sides of steep limestone cliffs, making the water feel held inside a giant natural arena. From the high cliffs, small waterfalls fall like shining silver threads, making the mirror-like surface feel more alive and magical. In the almost complete silence, cowbells echo from faraway meadows, giving the scene a peaceful, simple, and deeply alpine feeling. The blend of hypnotic water, mighty cliffs, silver waterfalls, and clear mountain sounds turns this place into a precious jewel of Swiss nature. Arc de Triomphe, France. Standing proudly in the heart of Paris, the Arc de Triomphe is a huge monument weighing 110,000 tons and rising 164 feet high, supported by a massive foundation reaching 26 feet underground. Twice each year, this limestone monument becomes a glowing eye of fire when the setting sun lines up perfectly inside the hollow arch. The monument stands at the center of 12 great avenues spreading out like a star, creating a sharp contrast with the wild traffic circling below. Carved inside the Grand Arch are the names of 660 famous generals, and the names marked with a line show they died in battle. Built at first to celebrate military glory, this monument has now become one of the most sacred symbols for honoring those who died for peace. Levatnet, Norway. Like a splendid emerald jewel carrying the breath of death, this lake is where perfect beauty and the destructive power of nature meet in a haunting way. The lake has a glowing green color, like a computer-made image, but beneath its calm surface, at a depth of about 548 feet, the remains of a ghost town still lie forever underwater. In 1905 and 1936, giant rock masses from thousands of feet above crashed into the narrow lake, creating tsunami waves up to 230 feet high and sweeping away everything in their path. That disaster took the lives of more than 130 people, making this once peaceful valley forever tied to the sad memory of nature's destructive power. Standing before this magical scene, people can easily feel extremely small as mountains and sky reflect on the frighteningly still lake and erase the line between reality and illusion. Yangshuo, China. Forget normal mountain ranges, because here, the Earth has raised an army of more than 20,000 limestone giants standing alone among flat fields. The winding river below the mountains keeps a cormorant fishing culture more than 1,300 years old, making each night feel like a misty performance from the past. This beauty is also honored through an outdoor water stage more than 1 mile long, where 600 local farmers help tell the story of the land's soul. Beneath the ancient stone surface are hundreds of connected caves, where millions of years of erosion created haunting heaven windows in the mountains. With more than 800 challenging natural climbing routes, this surreal land has become a proud symbol printed on China's 20 yuan banknote. Đurđevića Tara Bridge, Montenegro. Stretching across a giant canyon, about 4,265 feet deep, Đurđevića Tara Bridge rises like a thin ribbon of concrete in the sky. The bridge has 5 elegant arches, with the main arch reaching 381 feet across the gap above sharp cliffs and dark pine forests. Far below, the clear Tara River winds like a bright green snake, while the bridge casts a shadow between the two sides of the canyon. To enjoy the view fully, visitors can ride a 3,445-foot zip line and fly across the 564-foot drop at speeds up to 62 miles per hour. More than just a beautiful structure, this bridge also holds a tragic story because the engineer who built it later destroyed part of it himself to stop the enemy during wartime. Wolf Creek Crater, Australia. Carved into the barren desert of Australia like a giant scar Wolf Creek crater is the intact relic of a devastating meteorite impact that occurred 300,000 years ago. The massive kinetic energy from the crash created an explosion that vaporized everything in a blink, tearing the planetary crust to form a Great Depression, 2,871 feet wide. Although the initial tear pierced straight into the ground, up to 394 feet, relentless desert winds blowing sand over hundreds of thousands of years have filled half of it, leaving the current crater bottom at a depth of 197 feet. This place shows off an extreme visual contrast between the rusty red hue of the surrounding sandstone rim and a lush green vegetation patch unexpectedly blooming at the bottom 197 feet deep. Once invisible until catching a pilot's eye in 1947, this strange oasis carries a spectacular biological message. The seed of life can still multiply brilliantly right at the epicenter of destruction. Traun, Iceland. Covering about 218 square miles, Traun is a giant sea of lava created by the most destructive volcanic rage in human history in 1783. This disaster, called the Summer of Sand, not only erased 20% of the country's population, but also completely changed the global climate with a strange dark red haze of ash. With strange terrain that looks just like a distant planet, this place was once trusted by NASA as a training ground for Apollo astronauts before they officially conquered the moon. Over time, those rough lava waves were softened by a thick moss blanket, turning the once dead land into a soft emerald green sea with a strangely silent feeling. However, this beauty is extremely fragile because just one careless footprint can destroy moss that is hundreds of years old and leave permanent black scars on the surface of this wonder. Torres del Paine, Chile. Carrying a primal power shaped for 12 million years, this untouched geological masterpiece at the end of South America proudly stands as a great eighth wonder of nature. This huge biosphere is like a harsh natural arena, constantly swept by violent winds that can reach 112 miles per hour and keep the landscape extremely wild. Its most overwhelming highlight is the three giant granite towers piercing the sky at nearly 9,514 feet, standing like a crown that defies gravity. The landscape becomes even more spectacular, with eternal ice walls and lakes filled with glacial powder, which bends the light into an unreal emerald green color. The complete absence of modern technology removes all distractions, while the dangerous wildlife and untouched scenery turn this land into a powerful exploration space that awakens every sense. Xiao Lan Lake, Thailand. Hold your breath before a forgotten limestone kingdom, where hundreds of peaks, about 3,200 feet high, cut through jade water like nature's swords guarding an ancient secret. This masterpiece is actually a valley covering more than 64 square miles, forever drowned under billions of cubic meters of water after a giant hydroelectric dam was built in 1982. Beneath the emerald water, nearly 300 feet deep, lies a haunting ghost world where 5 villages and ancient forests still stand buried in deep darkness. Around this silent space is a rainforest, 160 million years old, a living museum, more ancient and more biodiverse than the great Amazon. Here, you fully disconnect from reality inside floating wooden houses that rise and fall with the water, where phone signal feels like a luxury and silence becomes strangely powerful. Lucerne, Switzerland. Described as a small version of Switzerland, Lucerne is where the old beauty of the city blends with the clear lake and the majestic Alps in the distance. On the calm emerald lake, smooth like a mirror, the shapes of snowy peaks appear clearly, making the scene feel between reality and illusion. Not only attractive because of nature, this place is also famous for luxury watchmaking, where time is turned into delicate and precise machines. Along the stone streets, fresco-covered buildings, and the old wooden bridge still stand through many centuries like living witnesses of history. When sunset turns the old walls gold, Lucerne shines like a harmony between human intelligence and the eternal beauty of nature. Lavaux Vineyards, Switzerland. This place is not just a vineyard, but a giant landscape of terraced vines built by people beside Lake Geneva for nearly 1,000 years. Across more than 2,000 acres, the stone wall system stretches for 250 miles, holding the soil on steep slopes and storing daytime heat to warm each vine at night. Thanks to this, the vines here are nourished by three natural energy sources: direct sunlight, light reflected from the lake, and warmth released from the stone walls. When autumn arrives, the whole mountainside turns bright gold, standing out between the emerald lake below and the silver, snowy Alps in the distance. These special conditions create a very unique wine flavor, so precious that Swiss people keep up to 98% of the production to enjoy inside the country. Gornergrat Railway, Switzerland. More than an ordinary train ride, Gornergrat Railway is a magical journey that takes you away from green valleys and up to the high world of the mighty Alps. Opened in 1898, it was Switzerland's first fully electric cog railway, still running strongly through burning sun and snowstorms. In only 33 minutes, this journey carries you through 3 different natural zones, from the bright life of pine forests to the deadly silence of permanent ice. At the top, the view opens with 29 mountains, over 13,123 feet around you, making people feel tiny among giants of ice. Most especially, the Matterhorn stands in the center like a sharp axe, splitting the sky, changing from golden sunrise to magical purple at sunset. Cocora Valley, Colombia. Hidden in the misty Andes, Cocora Valley feels like a dreamlike land where giant wax palms rise high into the Colombian sky. Their smooth trunks, covered in a pale wax layer, can grow up to 200 feet tall, making them the tallest palm trees on Earth. On foggy afternoons, when the mist climbs about 100 feet, thousands of green palm crowns seem to float above the clouds like islands in the air. Long ago, indigenous people used the thick wax on these trunks to make torches that could still burn in the harsh mountain weather. Although these palms were once pushed close to extinction because they were cut for religious use, they have recovered strongly and now stand as a proud symbol of Colombia. Milford Sound, New Zealand. Carved deep into the earth like a giant crack, Milford Sound is a powerful glacial fjord shaped by 2 million years of brutal geological force. The landscape is ruled by granite walls rising straight from the ocean to a terrifying height of 5,249 feet, making even huge ships look tiny. The steep cliff shape also turns this place into a natural wind tunnel where ocean winds can race through at speeds up to 93 miles per hour. Its most stunning sight appears when rain suddenly sends thousands of giant waterfalls pouring down the bare rock walls, only to vanish again under bright sunlight. Once known as a place of ancient greenstone value, this wild land, untouched by urban life, stands as a strong reminder of the eternal power of nature. Cape of Good Hope, South Africa. Reaching into the dangerous waters at the southwestern tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope is a historic sea gateway that once changed the course of world history. Beneath its rough and barren, rocky appearance lies an ecological treasure, home to more than 1,100 native plant species with a richness that even surpasses the Amazon in density. The weather here is extreme because bright sunshine can disappear in less than 15 minutes as thick fog rolls over the cliffs like giant snakes. The landscape feels wild and powerful, with huge white waves crashing hard against the rocky coast and sending tall columns of foam into the air. Once called the Cape of Storms in 1488, this raw land with no concrete has now become a spiritual destination for people who dream of touching the end of the earth. Great Ocean Road, Australia. Forget the idea of a normal coastal road, because Australia's Great Ocean Road is like a giant geological scar showing how violently the continent was shaped tens of millions of years ago. This place creates a stunning visual shock, suddenly moving travelers from bright, salty cliffs into thick, dark, temperate rainforests that feel like the Jurassic Age. Visitors are amazed by the sharp contrast between white cliffs and the deep Black Sea, where strong western winds can blow up to 62 miles per hour. But the greatest meaning rises from that harshness, because war veterans use their hands, shovels, and endless effort to bend the wild landscape. Stretching exactly 151 miles, this road of sweat and memory became the world's largest war memorial, built to honor fallen soldiers forever. Donan Castle, Scotland. Standing proudly where three great sea locks meet, Donan rises as one of the most legendary fortress castles of the Scottish Highlands. The steep valley shape around it turns the island into a natural wind tunnel, where strong ocean winds often strike the walls at more than 50 miles per hour. Across those ever-changing waters, a stone arch bridge stretches like frozen silk, carrying visitors from the modern world into an ancient, epic scene. Few people know that this beautiful castle was blown apart in 1719, with 343 barrels of gunpowder, and then lay in ruins for exactly 200 years. Rebuilt stone by stone, the fortress today is not just an old building, but a lasting symbol of the strong and unbroken spirit of the people of this land. Dubrovnik, Croatia. Shining like a proud pearl on the Adriatic Sea, Dubrovnik is not just an open city, but a powerful fortress enclosed by a massive ring of white stone walls. Those strong walls helped the city survive even after a magnitude 7 earthquake in 1667 destroyed most of the urban area and sent much of it crashing into the sea. Inside that beautiful but dry stone shell, people from the 15th century built a gravity-fed aqueduct more than 6 miles long through the mountains to bring fresh water into the city. From above, the thousands of glowing orange-red roofs are packed tightly together like living fire, standing in sharp contrast to the deep jade sea, where visibility can reach 164 feet. More than a stunning architectural treasure, this city also left a mark on history by banning slavery as early as 1416, far ahead of its time. Tsavo National Park, Kenya. Spreading across 8,494 square miles, this vast red wilderness is an ancient ecosystem that has almost no urban marks and still keeps its raw natural power. Its iron-rich land is cut by a giant black volcanic rock band 186 miles long, while 50 million gallons of fresh water rise every day to create bright green oases. The scenery looks like a real wildlife documentary, with rusty red ground standing in sharp contrast against a clear blue sky. In this harsh land, long-necked antelopes stand upright to eat thorny leaves, while vultures circle above, ready to strip a dead elephant in a short time. After surviving a bloody past that reduced the elephant population from 35,000 to only 5,000, this land sends a hard message that in the wild, only the most adaptable can survive. Hadbal al-Jazil, Yemen. Rising above the dry valleys of Yemen, Haid al-Jazil is a mud brick village that stands on a huge limestone rock about 328 feet high. The houses have walls up to 3 feet thick, helping them store the intense daytime heat of 104 degrees Fahrenheit and release it during the cold desert nights. Even though the rock below is slowly worn down by wind and sand, the village still stands proudly, creating a striking contrast with the green date palm grove far below. This remarkable place shows that true sustainable architecture can come from using natural materials wisely, living with the land, and one day returning those materials back to the earth. Skeiðar Arsandur, Iceland. Covering 502 square miles, the giant black desert of Skeiðar Arsandur is living proof of destruction when ice crashes against volcanic fire. That power erupted in 1996 when an eruption under the ice created a terrible flood with a flow far greater than the Amazon River. After those violent forces, the ground was covered with velvet black ash and cut by hundreds of silver rivers into a magical spiderweb across the cold sand. Its haunting silence and alien beauty have made this place a perfect setting for blockbuster films like Star Wars. But within that mysterious beauty, bent steel beams still lie alone on the black sand, like a permanent reminder of the power that once swept away even the strongest structures. Monte Alban, Mexico. Instead of building along the mountainside like many other civilizations, ancient people flattened an entire mountaintop to create a stone city sitting among the clouds at about 6,400 feet. From this special position, it became the great capital of the Zapotec people for more than 1,000 years, with plazas, temples, and gray stone structures arranged in balance to display power. Inside the site, hundreds of stone slabs carved with twisted human figures create a haunting feeling because they are believed to show prisoners defeated after war. The wealth and craftsmanship of this civilization are also clear in an ancient tomb, where more than 500 precious objects made of gold and jade were found. Thanks to a 360-degree view over 3 wide valleys, this high city once helped kings watch every movement below and keep control for many centuries. Lobok River does not overwhelm at first glance, but gently slows everything down as its soft emerald water and dense tropical surroundings pull life into a calmer rhythm. This distinctive green tone is formed by moderate depth, a bright riverbed, and sunlight filtered through thick vegetation, allowing the river to remain clear and visually stable. Because it lacks force or dramatic depth, Lobok River becomes a place of harmony, guiding the eye smoothly rather than demanding attention. Dense tropical trees close in along both banks, forming a continuous green corridor that blurs the boundary between water and the living world around it. Throughout history, the river functioned as a central lifeline, where human activity evolved in step with the natural flow. The prevailing quiet allows visitors not only to see the landscape, but to feel the slow breathing rhythm of nature itself. Manji Tungji, India. From a distance, this mountain looks like a gigantic stone gate torn open by the sky itself, rising in a rare U-shaped form high above the land. It is one of the most important holy sites in Jainism, so the entire place carries deep spiritual meaning. To reach the summit, visitors must climb about 4,500 winding stone steps carved into the steep mountainside. Along the way, the sheer cliffs have been cut into many man-made caves and dozens of ancient reliefs dating back to the 9th century. The most striking feature is the Ahimsa statue, about 108 feet tall, carved directly into solid rock and standing as the holiest symbol of this site. It becomes even more remarkable when you realize that more than 30,000 tons of basalt were believed to have been carved and moved by human effort, turning the whole mountain into a masterpiece of faith and open-air stone art. Jianmen Pass, China. Between a vast range of red sandstone mountains stretching for hundreds of miles, Jianmen Pass opens like a narrow slash, only about 164 feet wide. The cliffs on both sides are so flat and parallel that the whole place looks like a giant gate accidentally carved by nature. It is not just a single mountain pass, but a cluster of 72 peaks standing close together, which from above look like 72 stone swords pointing straight into the sky. Because of that harsh terrain, this place became part of a famous historical tale in which 30,000 defenders stopped more than 130,000 attackers for many months. Today, that sense of danger still remains on cliffside paths that stretch for hundreds of yards, with some parts only about 12 inches wide, dropping in a steep zigzag shape with no guardrails at all. The feeling becomes even more intense on a glass platform that extends out from the cliff at about 3,816 feet above sea level, making anyone who stands there feel suspended over a deep abyss. A dry jungle, India. Even in broad daylight, a dry jungle stays wrapped in a dim blue-gray glow because its dense forest canopy blocks most of the sunlight from reaching the ground. The core of the forest lies at about 2,500 feet above sea level, creating a mountain rainforest ecosystem that stays damp, cool, and isolated. The terrain is heavily broken, so the forest edge does not fade into gentle slopes, but suddenly opens into deep and slippery U-shaped gorges. During the rainy season, water crashes down the mountain in many waterfalls, including one that drops more than 1,200 feet. Underfoot are mud, rushing streams, moss-covered rocks, and twisted ancient roots, which make every step difficult. Because of that, the roughly 9-mile route through Adrai jungle feels like entering a dark, wet, and untamed world. Vajir Pinnacle, India. Bursting out of the ground like a devil's finger, Vajir Pinnacle stands apart from the surrounding mountains and gives off a feeling that is both strange and frightening. Its rock body does not narrow in a normal way, but swells outward in places like inverted overhangs, which can push climbers backward and leave them hanging above the deep void below. The surface of the pillar is almost bare, with only a few small patches of grass still clinging to it, while the vertical rock section, rising about 250 feet, makes the whole formation look even more severe. To conquer this place, you cannot climb it with bare hands, because your entire body has to hang completely from a very thin, specialized rope. Throughout the climb, there is almost no rock ledge to rest on, so if your strength fades, the only thing left is to let your body swing freely in the open air. And when you finally reach the top, the fear becomes even stronger, because the rough and cramped summit leaves room for only about 3 to 4 people to crouch together right at the edge of the drop. Padargad Fort, India. Rising from the valley like a black fossilized spear, Padargad Fort is completely cut off from the surrounding mountains by deep abysses. It was never meant for living, but served as a harsh military watchtower, like a lighthouse on land built to watch every movement far below. The most terrifying part of the climb is a natural crack about 13 feet long, so narrow that only one adult can squeeze through. After that, climbers must cling to tiny footholds carved into the nearly vertical rock face and pull themselves over worn steps, rising as high as about 2 feet. Along the cliff are tiny guard recesses cut into the stone, just large enough for one person to sit curled up inside. At the narrow, flat summit, all that remains are a few rainwater cisterns beside the drop and lonely ruins, making the whole place feel like a forgotten outpost suspended in the sky. Hapatyachakada, India. Unlike the usual straight cliff walls, the balcony of death curves inward like the flared hood of a giant cobra, making the whole rock face look both strange and unsettling. That shape turns the place into a natural wind machine, so during the rainy season, water at the cliff edge can be blown upward and create the rare sight of a reverse waterfall. From the ledge to the valley floor is a drop of more than about 3,937 feet, enough to make both the empty space ahead and the wind around you feel overwhelming. And to reach that viewpoint, you must spend about 2 hours walking through rain, mud, and slippery ground, making the whole approach feel like a slow journey toward the edge of emptiness. Sentu Temple, China. Rising into the sky like a lonely spear at about 3,937 feet, this thin limestone pillar carries a temple balanced high above the void. When thick fog rises and swallows the lower mountain, the hanging temple looks like a haunted box drifting through the clouds. The summit is so narrow that the entire 2-story structure is pressed against the cliff edge, with corners reaching straight into open air, as if they could snap into the abyss. To build it, people long ago had to carry every roof tile and timber by hand while crawling across a rock face, rising at nearly 90 degrees. Most chilling of all is that for nearly 2 decades, this shrine above the void has been quietly guarded by a 90-year-old woman who stays there to keep its sacred fire alive. Daliang Mountains, China. Appearing like a giant maze of sharp peaks and deep abysses, the Daliang Mountains are a place where the land is so violently broken that it is extremely hard to reach. Many peaks here rise above 13,000 feet, then plunge sharply down into the low valleys below, creating cliffs that are almost vertical. That deep isolation once allowed the core of this region to maintain a closed slave society until the middle of the 20th century. Because the terrain was so dangerous, some ancient villages were built right beside cliff edges, more than 2,500 feet high, instead of at the foot of the mountains. For many generations, people had to use rope ladders fixed to the cliffs to travel, and even small children once had to climb down that way just to go to school. Later, that deadly route was replaced by a steel staircase with 2,556 steps, turning it into a safer path, though it still looks terrifying. Jiading Village, China. Like an island hanging in the sky, this village stands on top of a lonely karst limestone mass, more than 3,937 feet high. What makes it even more unusual is that the summit is fairly flat and fertile, giving people enough space to build green terraced fields and vegetable gardens. When fog rises and hides the lower cliff, the whole village suddenly looks as if it is floating among the clouds, completely cut off from the earth below. The first people who came here were not searching for beauty, but trying to escape war and turn this stone summit into a safe refuge. Over many generations, nearly 200 families have continued to live on that narrow mountaintop, surviving through farming and livestock raising while remaining almost separated from the outside world. That is why the strangest thing about this place is not only its dreamlike beauty, but the fact that people turned a dangerous rock summit into a real village. Koh Phangan, Thailand. Resting beneath a huge limestone cliff that rises almost straight into the sky, this village looks as if it is floating above the sea. Nearly the whole settlement stands on posts above the water, so people move around only on narrow wooden walkways linking the houses together. More than 200 years ago, Muslim fishing families built this village on the sea because they were not allowed to own land, and the community slowly grew from there. Even without much solid ground, they still created a full community with a school, a health center, a police station, and a huge mosque crowned with a bright golden dome. The only small piece of land they were allowed to use on the steep cliff was not for the living, but carved into a tiny cemetery. Its most special symbol is the floating football field, made by village children from scrap wood, and that same place later helped produce a very famous youth team. Cheddar Gorge, England. Formed when meltwater from the Ice Age tore a giant cut into the land, Cheddar Gorge is now the largest limestone gorge in England, reaching nearly 400 feet deep and about 3 miles long. The road along the gorge floor twists through sharp bends, tightly squeezed between two massive rock walls. But beneath that stone, an underground river is still quietly hollowing out the mountain, creating deep sinkholes and huge stalactite caves. The hollow heart of the mountain, with a steady temperature of around 52 degrees Fahrenheit, became a near-perfect natural refrigerator for aging the famous cheese, known around the world. The mysterious and overwhelming beauty of this underground cave system is also said to have helped inspire Helm's Deep in The Lord of the Rings. Because of that, this place feels like a rare paradox, carrying the violent mark of nature while becoming a breathtaking landscape with deep history. Nepali coast, United States. Appearing like the spine of a giant green dragon twisting along the ocean, this Jurassic fortress proudly refuses every attempt by humans to tame it. This broken wall of rock stretches for 17 miles and cuts off all road access, to the point that no paved road or concrete structure has ever been able to take hold here. On cliffs that rise at nearly 90 degrees, thick tropical vegetation still clings to giant waterfalls that are torn apart and crash roaring straight into the violent sea below. The survival ruins once built by ancient people right beside the abyss are now being gripped and slowly swallowed back into the earth by the wild forest and massive roots. When winter arrives, walls of water as high as 40 feet slam into the base of the cliffs and make the dark sea caves roar like trapped beasts. Because of that, anyone trying to reach this coastline sealed off by the ocean is left with little choice but to risk everything on a mountainside trail famous for its danger. The inverted tower of Quinta da Regalira, Portugal. Instead of rising into the sky like a normal tower, this structure drops about 88 feet into the earth, feeling like a giant stone funnel opening straight into darkness. Its 9 inverted levels are often linked to the image of the 9 circles of hell, so the descent feels like a ritual passage through death before reaching rebirth. Wrapped around the inner wall is a spiral staircase covered in damp moss, stretching downward in a way that makes every step feel deeper and more unsettling. That is why this place haunts people not as an ordinary well, but as a stone doorway that forces you to descend into the depths before giving you light again. Vazia, Georgia. Once hidden deep inside solid rock, this invisible honeycomb fortress was created to conceal an entire community from brutal invasions. At more than 4,265 feet above sea level, the 13-level maze was carved into a cliff rising at almost 90 degrees, forming about 6,000 rooms inside the mountain. For centuries, more than 50,000 people lived and took shelter in those dark tunnels, turning the whole mountain into a vast military refuge. To keep life going in such isolation, its builders cut an underground water system more than 2 miles long through the rock to bring fresh water to the entire complex. But the earthquake of 1283 tore open the cliff, destroyed about 75% of its protective outer layer, and exposed the hidden city to daylight. Even after that destruction, a small group of monks still lives and prays inside this cave city today, as if the mountain settlement never truly died. Shimao Wonderland, Intercontinental, China. After burning through almost $300 million and taking 12 years to complete, this daring earth scraper was driven straight into an abandoned quarry about 300 feet deep that had been torn open since the Second World War. Instead of rising like a normal skyscraper, the structure is swallowed downward into the ground, with 16 floors attached to a grey cliff wall that stands at almost 90 degrees. To stop the whole building from slipping into the abyss, a giant steel framework weighing about 17 million pounds was anchored into the fractured rock and engineered to withstand earthquakes up to magnitude 9. The most striking feature is a transparent glass tower, dropping all the way toward the dark water below, looking like a sharp, artificial waterfall slicing down the opposite cliff. The feeling becomes even more intense at the final 2 levels because they are completely submerged, forcing human activity into a space surrounded by thousands of tons of water. That may be why people come here not only for luxury, but to buy the eerie thrill of sleeping on balconies suspended between a broken cliff and a deep void. Pravchitska Brana, Czech Republic. Pravchitska Brana rises like a giant sandstone gate in the sky, standing above deep green forests and creating a scene that feels both majestic and almost unreal. It is considered one of the most impressive natural arches in Europe, with a span of about 87 feet that makes it look like a colossal structure built by nature itself. The top of the arch stands around 52 feet above the ground, about the height of a 5-story building, which makes the entire rock formation seem as if it is hanging in mid-air. This stone gate was formed through a long process of selective erosion, as softer layers were slowly worn away, and only the strongest sandstone frame remained. Right beside it stands an Alpine-style building of wood and stone, completed in 1881 within a single year, adding an old and storybook charm to the landscape. Surrounded by pine and oak forest, and with no motor road leading directly to it, the arch can only be reached by walking along steep trails, which makes the final view feel even more unforgettable. Bastei Bridge, Germany. In the middle of a maze of sandstone towers, the stone bridge built in 1851 appears to hang in the sky, linking steep rock outcrops with a form that feels both slender and threatening. What makes it so unusual is that the bridge, about 251 feet long, with 7 stone arches, does not rise from the bottom of the gorge, but is locked directly into sandstone formations, standing precariously in open space. Because of that, simply looking down at the drop of more than 636 feet to the river below is enough to make every step along the narrow path feel tense and dizzying. That feeling grows even stronger because the ruins of a medieval defensive fortress still stand among the thinnest rock pinnacles, giving the whole scene a mix of grandeur and gloom. For many centuries, this place has been developed as a dramatic viewpoint for nobles who wanted to experience fear in the middle of dangerous natural beauty. That may be why the strangest thing here is that a ledge once filled with danger has now become a walkway for millions of people. Jigokudani Monkey Park, Japan. Feels like a natural winter spa where wild monkeys sit in hot water, surrounded by snow and steam. Because of the harsh climate, Japanese macaques developed the unusual habit of bathing in hot springs to stay warm and survive. At about 2,788 feet above sea level, snow can reach nearly 3 feet deep, turning the valley into a frozen world around the warm pools. The mineral-rich water, full of sulfur and calcium, helps them keep warm, while also cleaning their skin and removing parasites. Around the springs, rock walls have been shaped over thousands of years by steam and chemical erosion, giving the area a rough and unique appearance. Through the rising mist, the sound of rushing water and drifting ice creates a scene that feels both harsh and alive, like a natural stage. Velika Planina, Slovenia. High in the mountains of Slovenia, this place feels like an older world, still resting above the clouds. It is one of the largest and oldest mountain herding plateaus, so life here has long remained closely tied to nature. More than 140 wooden huts with cone-shaped roofs stand across the plateau, giving it a simple but very distinctive look. Beneath that peaceful surface lies ancient limestone terrain filled with sinkholes and caves shaped slowly over millions of years. Because of the altitude, snow can reach about 7 feet and stay for months before spring brings millions of purple crocuses. With only cowbells and wind in the air, The whole landscape feels quiet, remote, and far from modern life. Piodun, Portugal. Piodun looks like a hidden village clinging to a mountainside, made unforgettable by its dark stone houses and bright blue doors. Set about 2,070 feet above sea level, the whole settlement rises in layers along the steep slope, making each house feel like part of the mountain. Nearly everything here is built from dark slate, from the roofs and walls to the narrow paths, giving the village a very old and unified character. Against that dark stone, the blue doors and window frames create a strong contrast that makes the entire place stand out at once. Ancient terraced fields surround the village, while the inner lanes are so narrow that they are meant only for people and animals. Beneath the stone ground, underground water keeps flowing through the slate all year, quietly sustaining the village and linking its life to the mountain itself. Ushguli, Georgia. Feels like a stone fortress frozen in time, resting high among the mountains and glaciers of Georgia. Set at about 6,890 feet above sea level, it survives in a harsh world where winter temperatures can fall below -22 degrees Fahrenheit. More than 200 ancient stone towers rise across the valley, making each home feel less like a house and more like a small stronghold. Behind those grey towers stands the highest mountain in the country, while glacial water flows below and gives the whole landscape a cold and majestic power. The entire view is ruled by three main colors: the gray of slate, the dark green of alpine grass, and the white of permanent snow and ice. That blend of altitude, severe climate, and dense medieval towers is what makes it one of the most extreme extraordinary mountain villages on Earth. Kalyazin Bell Tower, Russia, rises from the wide waters of the Volga like a lonely white ghost, creating a scene that feels both beautiful and unreal. It stands in a reservoir formed after the river was dammed in 1939, when much of the old land around it disappeared underwater. The structure reaches about 244 feet high and narrows through 5 levels, which makes it look more and more like a giant candle in the middle of a still mirror. Beyond its striking form, it also carries elegant neoclassical lines, with columns and details that remain graceful but strong. In winter, the ice around its base can grow more than 3 feet thick, sometimes becoming solid enough for people to walk directly toward it. After surviving nearly a century of floodwater and bitter cold, it remains not just a lonely monument, but a powerful proof of remarkable old engineering. Gorky Terelj National Park, Mongolia. Feels like a giant, open-air stone museum in central Mongolia, where nature has turned the mountains into strange shapes that resemble people and animals. These granite formations began with ancient magma activity about 200 to 300 million years ago, and were later carved by wind and water into the forms seen today. The most famous of them is a natural rock about 80 feet high that looks like a turtle climbing a slope, making it the most recognizable symbol of the area. Beyond the unusual scenery, caves and cliff faces here were once used by lamas seeking silence, which gives the whole landscape a strong spiritual depth. In July, wildflowers spread across the grassland around the grey rocks and suddenly soften the harsh stone world with colour and life. That blend of ancient rock, open pasture, spiritual history, and remote mountain stillness is what makes this one of the most remarkable natural regions in Mongolia. Duropinar Site, Turkey. In the cold, dry mountains of eastern Turkey, the Duropinar Site appears like a fossilized ship shape 515 feet long, linking it to one of the most mysterious stories in the Bible. This number attracts attention because it closely matches the 300-cubit length of Noah's Ark in ancient texts, if measured by the Egyptian royal cubit. The structure became widely known in 1959 after a mapping pilot noticed its long pointed form during an aerial survey. Around the area, large stones with holes drilled at one end have made the debate even stronger, because some people believe they resemble ancient ship anchors. Today, many still believe this may be a trace of Noah's Ark, but most geologists see it as a natural formation, leaving the place balanced between faith, legend, and science. Pyramids of Giza, Egypt. On Egypt's desert plateau, the Pyramids of Giza are not only overwhelming because of their giant shape, but because for more than 4,500 years they have stood against war, earthquakes, and the erosion of time. The largest pyramid alone contains about 2.3 million stone blocks, many weighing 2 to 30 tons, with some inner granite blocks reaching 70 tons, creating a total mass of nearly 6 million tons. That scale is why the question of how ancient Egyptians transported, lifted, and assembled the stones without modern machines still has no single agreed answer. The latitude of the largest structure, 29.9792458 degrees north, is often mentioned because it matches the digits of the speed of light, but this remains debated and cannot be confirmed as intentional design. Although many historians call them tombs, the absence of any mummy found inside keeps this complex standing between history, construction skill, ancient belief, and mysteries that remain unfinished. Tarapaca Giant, Chile. On the dry desert ground of northern Chile, the Tarapaca Giant is not only a human figure 390 feet tall, but an ancient sign placed in a land where rain, crops, and direction once decided survival. Dating to around 1000 to 1400 AD, this giant figure is considered the largest human geoglyph in the world and is linked to pre-Columbian cultures. According to local tradition, it may represent a giant warrior or a deity connected with weather, volcanoes, and lightning, forces ancient people both feared and prayed to. The rays above its head are also seen by some theories as a tool for watching the sun and moon, possibly helping predict rain for planting in an extremely harsh environment. Because its exact origin remains uncertain, this place stands between archaeology, astronomy, and belief, showing how ancient people turned the ground into a survival map beneath the desert sky. Moai, Chile. In the vast Pacific Ocean, the Moai appear like giant stone faces, with large heads, sloping foreheads, wide noses, raised chins, and silent eyes filled with authority. Most of the statues face inland with their backs to the sea, because many researchers believe they were linked to ancestor worship and protection of the communities before them. When the buried bodies were excavated, carvings on their backs revealed crescent shapes, canoes, and human figures, showing that they were not simple stone blocks. Some statues once carried red stone cylinders weighing up to 26,000 pounds, understood as sacred top knots linked to high-ranking chiefs. What still makes the Moai mysterious is how the Rapa Nui people moved and raised stone blocks weighing many tons across miles of rough terrain without wheels, cranes, or large draft animals. Nazca Lines, Peru. On the dry plain of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines appear like a giant map carved into the ground, where straight lines, geometric shapes, and living figures only become clear from above. They were created between 500 BC and 500 AD, meaning they have survived for more than 2,000 years and are much older than the Inca Empire. Many researchers believe these were not simply drawings to look at, but may have been ceremonial paths where ancient people walked in groups to pray for water during harsh droughts. Some discoveries, such as offering skulls at important points and lines aligned with sunrise on solstice days, suggest the site may have been connected to belief, astronomy, and farming seasons. Even today, the astronaut figure with large eyes and a strange human shape deepens the mystery. But the true value of Nazca lies in how ancient people turned the desert into a message sent toward the sky. Chandbauri, India. Like a pyramid turned upside down into the earth, Chandbauri opens through 3,500 symmetrical steps, turning the search for water into a journey that feels both practical and ceremonial. This structure, more than 1,200 years old, is believed to date back to the 8th or 9th century. Yet the way ancient builders calculated the levels and locked the stone blocks together for centuries is still not fully understood. Its main purpose was to store water in a harsh, dry climate. But the ancient temple beside it suggests that water here may also have been connected to belief, purification, and communal rituals. The dark corridors and resting chambers surrounding the well turned this place into a shelter from the heat and a social gathering space, giving it a role beyond simple survival. Legend says the well was built in a single night by supernatural forces, and the blend of precise engineering, deep green water, and mysterious stories still makes Chandbauri feel like a doorway descending into the memory of the ancient world. Sacsayhuaman, Peru. On a high hillside in Peru, Sacsayhuaman was not only a stone fortress, but also a way for the Inca to place their power into the landscape, rituals, and commanding view over the land below. Massive limestone, andesite, and diorite blocks weighing from dozens to more than 100 tons were fitted into irregular polygon shapes so tightly that almost no gaps can be seen. That carefully planned, irregular design helped the walls spread earthquake force, allowing the structure to survive major tremors better than many later buildings. What still remains difficult to explain is how the Inca quarried, dragged, and raised these giant stones across steep terrain without cranes, wheels, or iron pulleys. Underground tunnels and theories about a three-dimensional map suggest that this place was not only about labor, but also reflected an ancient way of thinking that still holds many secrets beyond modern understanding. Karahan Tepe, Turkey. Before agriculture and pottery, Karahan Tepe appeared as an 11,000-year-old ritual center, showing that ancient humans may have organized belief before settling into farming life. More than 250 T-shaped stone pillars, with some weighing from several tons to dozens of tons, were shaped using only small flint tools, proving that building skill was already highly advanced. In one special chamber, a giant human head is surrounded by 11 stone pillars rising 3 to 5 feet high, leading many researchers to connect the space with rituals of transformation or rebirth. Narrow passages, darkness, and carved channels may once have been used for water, wine, or sacrificial rites, but their exact meaning still has no certain conclusion. Karahan Tepe matters because it challenges older views of history, showing that belief and ritual may have pushed humans to build communities even before agriculture. Avdat, Israel. Amid the barren, stone wilderness of the Negev desert, Avdat rises like a lonely fortress hanging above cliffs nearly 2,000 feet high, once controlling one of the richest incense-trade routes of the ancient world. The city stands on a steep plateau, surrounded by deep ravines and traces of flash floods, where every drop of water carried the value of survival. The greatest mystery of Avdat is its ancient water system, so precise that even a tiny mistake in angle could cause all rainwater to vanish into the desert. Even today, researchers still cannot fully explain how ancient engineers calculated slopes across hillsides stretching for dozens of miles using only primitive tools thousands of years ago. Beneath the stone ruins, unexcavated underground chambers and massive wine presses continue to surround Avdat with mystery, like the remains of a civilization that once turned the desert itself into a symbol of power and survival. Myra, Turkey. On the southern coast of Turkey, Myra was once a prosperous Lycian city, yet beneath its silent ruins, many secrets still remain unsolved. This city belonged to the 6 major centers of the Lycian League, where each leading center held strong voting power in one of the earliest federal democratic systems. Its most striking feature is the tombs carved into limestone cliffs, shaped like small houses or temples with porches, false wooden beams, and detailed relief work. The Lycians seem to have seen tombs not only as burial places, but also as copies of homes, because they believed the dead continued another life after leaving this world. Beneath today's ground, traces of mansions, streets, and ancient monuments may still lie deep in mud, making Myra feel like a city that has not yet finished telling its story. Aramumuru, Peru. On a solid rock wall in Peru, Aramumuru appears like a strangely smoothed rectangular doorway, making many people imagine an entrance locked between stone and legend. Some historians suggest it may have been an unfinished pre-Inca or Inca ritual site, but its true purpose still has no certain answer. What makes the place so intriguing is the flat, carved surface, raising the question of how ancient people shaped it without modern steel tools. According to local legend, an Inca priest once carried a golden sun disk to open this gate and escape from the Spanish conquerors. Since the modern world learned about it in 1996 through the story of a tour guide, Aramumuru still stands between archaeology, ritual, and belief in a doorway to another world. Mahabalipuram, India. On the coast of South India, Mahabalipuram appears like a stone city from the Pallava period, where sea waves and ancient temples preserve the memory of a prosperous port. Many structures here are impressive because they were carved directly from single rock masses without brick or mortar, showing the high carving skill of ancient builders. A relief nearly 98 feet long and 49 feet high, is filled with more than 100 carved figures of gods, demons, and animals, turning the rock wall into a religious history told through images. Legend says there were once 7 temple towers along the shore, and later underwater discoveries made many people believe that tsunamis or rising seas may have swallowed much of those remains. Together with the strange 250-ton balancing rock, Mahabalipuram still stands between archaeology, legend, and physics, where people must separate what is proven from mysteries that remain open. Montserrat Monastery, Spain. On the 720-meter-high mountainside of Catalonia, Montserrat Monastery appears pinned directly into the rock, where the harsh landscape easily blends Christian faith with isolation and mystery. At the center of that belief stands La Moreneta, a statue once said by legend to have been created by Saint Luke, although dating studies place it in the 12th century. The dark color of the statue also reveals the line between miracle and material reality, because scientific analysis suggests the shade may come from lead-based paint, varnish, and candle soot accumulated over centuries. The remoteness of the mountain helped many legends attach themselves to this place, from stories of the Holy Grail being hidden there to Heinrich Himmler's 1940 journey searching for traces of ancient power. UFO reports and monthly gatherings have made Montserrat feel even stranger, as if pilgrimage, science, war history, and modern imagination all meet together on the same mountain. Masada, Israel. In the desert of Israel, Masada is not only a fortress on a rock plateau, but a place where power, fear, and the will to survive were pushed to the limit. Herod the Great turned this cliff into a luxurious refuge, with a 3-level palace hanging near the edge, both displaying power and hiding from enemy eyes. To survive the harsh climate, ancient builders carved 12 cisterns into the mountain, guided flash flood water into them, and stored up to 40,000 cubic meters of water for many years. The heaviest mystery is the story of 960 deaths because excavations have found only 28 sets of remains, leaving a wide gap between historical records and archaeological evidence. The pottery shards with names and the 2,000-year-old date seed that sprouted again show that Masada does not only preserve memories of death, but also hides parts of history that have never been fully explained. Belchite, Spain. Across the dry plains of Spain, Belchite stands like the skeleton of a forgotten town left behind by both time and the brutal battle of 1937. In only 14 days of fighting, an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers and civilians lost their lives, turning this place into a heavy reminder of the cost of civil war. Before its destruction, Belchite carried the architectural style of 15th century Mudejar design, but its brick walls and ancient towers were shattered within days by modern artillery. Instead of rebuilding the ruins, the old town was left standing as a silent memorial, while the nearby new town was constructed through the labor of about 1,000 political prisoners. Stories about church bells at midnight, footsteps, aircraft sounds, and human shadows inside the ruins remain unproven, yet they continue to make Belchite feel like a place where history and the trauma of war still exist together. Gantia, Malta. On the island of Gozo in Malta, Gantia Temple rises like a giant trace of the ancient world, built about 5,500 years ago. This site has two stone temple areas made from massive rock blocks and is believed to have once been used for fertility rituals. What makes this place even more mysterious is that about 1,000 years after it was completed, the civilization that created it suddenly disappeared. Even today, no one knows how the ancient people of Gozo moved and raised those heavy stones when their tools were still very simple. In Maltese, Gantia means giant, as if the name itself still keeps the legend that this place was once built by extraordinary beings. Papericon, Bulgaria. Hanging high on the cliffs of the Rhodope Mountains, this place stands like a giant stone sanctuary hiding terrifying secrets. More than 8,000 years old, this entire megacity covers about 129,000 square feet and was carved directly from one extremely hard megalithic rock mass. In the past, it was once a center of belief, witnessing countless bloody sacrifice rituals in exchange for prophecies that decided the fate of empires. But the impossible question is how Bronze Age people, with simple tools, could cut apart an entire mountain to build palaces with millimeter-level precision. Whether it is the masterpiece of a lost civilization or a fortress of the gods, Papericon still remains covered in mysterious darkness today. Saparang, Tibet. In the cold, empty land of western Tibet, this place rises like an ancient fortress growing out of the cliffs, once the mysterious capital of the Guj kingdom. The ruined city stands about 12,500 feet above sea level, clinging to a pyramid-shaped rock more than 500 feet high, with palaces, temples, tunnels, and many caves cut deep into the mountain. From around the 10th century, it once controlled a trade route between India and Tibet, while also becoming an important Buddhist center in the Western Himalayas. But after centuries of power, the Guj kingdom collapsed through war, leaving mud walls, Buddhist murals, and empty palaces in the wind and dust. Some people see Saparang as the remains of a kingdom swallowed by history, while legend links this lonely cliff city to the shadow of Shangri-La. Unfinished obelisk, Egypt. In the ancient quarry of Aswan in Egypt, this unfinished stone pillar appears like a giant held back by time, started about 3,500 years ago. This single red granite block is about 138 feet long and weighs nearly 1,200 tons, and if completed, it would have become the largest obelisk ever made by ancient Egyptians. What makes this place even more mysterious is that the work was abandoned forever inside the rock because of one fatal crack that appeared before completion. Even today, no one knows how ancient Egyptians planned to separate, move, and raise that giant stone. The chisel marks still surrounding the unfinished obelisk look like the final traces of an ancient work site, as if an entire dream of reaching the gods was frozen in stone. Dendera Temple, Egypt. On the banks of the Nile, this temple stands like a giant time machine, hiding cosmic knowledge that seems far beyond human limits. This 1,000-year-old sandstone complex covers about 431,000 square feet and amazes people with a ceiling carved with an extremely precise zodiac star map. Once a powerful sacred site for the goddess Hathor, its dark underground crypts still seem to seal away many mysteries that have not been fully explained. How could ancient Egyptians carve the Dendera light relief, which looks so much like a modern electric device, in a time when people only had torches and fire? Even today, Dendera stands between science and legend, as if every star on its stone ceiling is still hiding an undecoded memory of ancient Egypt. Tassili Najir, Algeria. In the Sahara Desert of Algeria, this place appears like a giant stone museum where the past still lives on silent cliffs. Across this plateau of more than 28,000 square miles, people have found over 15,000 paintings showing ancient rituals and a bright green ecosystem that few would expect. What makes it even more mysterious is that the rich plant life and the civilization that created these images suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a deadly sea of dry sand. Even today, no one knows where those prehistoric artists found the inspiration to draw strange beings that look exactly like alien astronauts. In the local language, Tassili N'Ajjer means plateau of rivers, as if the name itself still holds the legend of a water paradise that once existed inside this harsh desert. Western Wall, Jerusalem. In the Holy Land of Jerusalem, this place stands like a giant stone witness from the ancient world. Built more than 2,000 years ago, it was made from solid limestone blocks, with the largest stone weighing more than 500 tons. Once part of the protective wall around one of the most sacred temples, it is one of the rare remains still standing after the whole area was destroyed and flattened by the Roman Empire. The most chilling question is how ancient people could stack these stones weighing hundreds of tons so tightly that not even a thin knife blade could slip between them. Science calls it an engineering wonder of the ancient world, while faith sees it as a place where heaven and earth touch, making the Western Wall stay silent as if it is guarding a secret no one dares to awaken. Persepolis, Iran. On the Fars Plateau of Iran, this place rises like the stone throne of the ancient Persian Empire, built by King Darius I around 518 before Christ. This palace complex covered up to 1,345,000 square feet, built from rows of giant megalithic columns, and once served as the center for the grandest ceremonies of its time. In 330 before Christ, the city was captured by Alexander the Great and burned completely. But even today, people still do not know whether that fire was an accident or a brutal act of revenge. What gives this place its tragic feeling is that after only 2 centuries at the height of power, the entire shining capital collapsed in a painful fall. The surviving stone reliefs look like ancient processions that never truly left, as if Persepolis is still holding the final breath of an empire that once made the whole world tremble. Devil's Bridge, Germany. Hidden deep in the Kromlau forest of Germany, this bridge appears like a mysterious stone gateway with a beauty so eerie it feels unsettling. About 115 feet long and built from countless sharp basalt columns, its arch forms a perfectly complete illusion of a circle when reflected on the lake below. Although it was built in the 19th century, the deadly stillness of this structure has always been tied to old legends about dark bargains. What feels most chilling is how such a narrow and almost impossible stone arch could hold itself in the air for centuries without any visible support. Whether it is the peak of architectural calculation or a masterpiece paid for with a soul to the devil, the bridge still reflects a forbidden secret that no one dares to cross. Tiwanaku, Bolivia. On the cold, high plateau of Bolivia, this place appears like a giant and mysterious stone city near Lake Titicaca, about 12,600 feet above sea level. From about 500 to 1000 after Christ, the Tiwanaku people turned it into an important center of ritual and power in the Andes. What feels astonishing is that they had stone blocks weighing up to 130 tons, dragged from quarries nearly 62 miles away, then cut with grooves, right angles, and lines of unbelievable precision. Because of that, the biggest question remains how they could move and fit those giant stones on the high plateau without wheels. Science suggests drought and social change caused Tiwanaku to decline, while Inca legend sees this place as the birthplace of humanity. Carnac, France. On the coast of Brittany in France, this place appears like a giant stone army from prehistory, standing still in the wind and mist for more than 5,000 years. It has more than 3,000 standing stones, arranged in straight rows stretching for miles, with some stones rising to about 20 feet. What makes Carnac even more mysterious is that pre-Celtic people raised these stones, but left no clear explanation for their true purpose. Even today, people still debate whether this was a place for ancestor worship, an astronomical map, a burial ritual site, or a sacred sign that modern humans cannot fully understand. Legend says the Carnac stones are an army turned into stone, as if an ancient battlefield is still standing in silence to guard a secret that has never been awakened. Rosslyn Chapel, Scotland. Near Edinburgh in Scotland, this chapel appears like a stone box of codes, where almost every wall is covered with symbols that are hard to explain. Founded by Sir William St. Clair in 1446, this small chapel holds hundreds of detailed carvings, from angels, leaves, and monsters to mysterious cubes on the stone arches. What makes it even more famous is the apprentice pillar, tied to the legend of a young mason killed because he carved something more beautiful than his master. Even today, people still debate whether the symbols in Rosslyn are only religious art or hidden clues about the Knights Templar, Freemasonry, and the Holy Grail. Is it an artistic masterpiece or a maze hiding the sacred Holy Grail? While Rosslyn stays silent and locks the truth inside cold stone. Poenari Castle, Romania. Perched on the cliffs of the Carpathian Mountains, this castle appears like the dark fortress of Vlad the Impaler, the man who cast the Dracula shadow into history. To reach these ruins at about 2,600 feet high, people must climb about 1,480 steps, where this 15th century structure was built from countless heavy limestone blocks. This was once the infamous lair of Vlad the Impaler, said to have been rebuilt with the flesh and sweat of prisoners to become an almost unreachable refuge. But how could exhausted workers carry stone after stone up a sheer mountain abyss using only raw human strength? Is it a masterpiece of military defense, or truly the eternal lair of the Dracula devil, while Poenari still sinks into cold mist and a blood-soaked past? Krakus Mound, Poland. On Lasota Hill in Kraków, this place appears like a mysterious man-made hill, believed to be linked to King Krak, the legendary founder of the city. This ancient mound is about 52 feet high and about 200 feet wide at its base, and is considered one of the oldest surviving human-made structures in Kraków. During excavations in the 1930s, people found a core of wood, soil, and stone inside, but no human remains were discovered to prove it was truly a king's grave. But how was this giant earth mound calculated to align so perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice days across the sky? Is it an advanced, prehistoric observatory or a tomb holding the soul of a king, while Krakus still stays silent and casts a dark mystery over everything around it. Gunung Padang, Indonesia. Hidden under the dense forest of Indonesia, this place stands like a giant pyramid, hiding ancient mysteries that seem impossible to explain. Spreading across 37 acres, this 5-level structure is made from millions of basalt stones, with a shocking age that some claim may reach 25,000 years. Many archaeologists see it as an important megalithic site of the ancient Sundanese people, possibly used for ancestor worship and connection with the spirit world. What makes Gunung Padang controversial is that some theories suggest much older structures may lie deep beneath the hill, but many experts still do not accept this explanation. Is it the ruin of a lost supercivilization, or only a natural geological formation? While Gunung Padang still silently buries the truth deep underground.